Latter-day Defense. What is it? Where is it? Who is it? And probably why is it? Anyway, coming up. Greetings and welcome to the pilot episode, I guess you'd say, of Latter-day Defense. I'm Travis. I'll be your host of sorts, I guess, in this journey of trying to figure out where we go with this thing. We posed some questions. I'm going to try to answer them and give you a little explanation of what all this is before we get into a lot of meat. Maybe we'll get into a little meat today, but this is mostly kind of an intro. So, like a lot of you, I guess I've been trying to figure out what to do about the circumstances that we're in these days. And I felt kind of a prompting of sorts to do something like this. There's quite a few people out there that are making YouTube videos and podcasts and things talking about what's going on in the world. And a lot of it's pretty heavy stuff. And I wanted to try to bring something that maybe adds my perspective on those things. And at the same time, I guess I'm serious about these things, but also want to make something that's kind of entertaining, and maybe we can chuckle a little bit while we try to process all of this heavy duty stuff that we're trying to digest in the last days. The backdrop is a little bit of a work in progress. A lot of that is my wife's decorating, and we'll see if she's mad about what I left in or out of the video, but we'll sort that out and work through that. But let's get to the meat of it. My goal with these is to try to get out information and make the videos not terribly long. I don't think people enjoy, well, I enjoy the long form kind of videos, but most people probably don't have 2 or 3 hours to get through a video. So I'm going to try to keep it in that, 15-minute or so window, and maybe try to do more quantity of videos. And if something feels like long-winded, then I'll put it in a series, I guess. But we'll see how far this thing goes. Another motivation for this, just so you know, is my ties. I have an obsession with ties. I buy way too many ties. I've spent too much money on ties. But with things being the way that they are, I can't really show them off at church. So I'll try and show them off here. We'll see what you think. Give your feedback, your input. Maybe I'll have a little bit of a story to each tie. This one I went red, white, and blue because America, right off the bat, right? So what's Latter-day Defense? Let's get into it and talk about it a little bit and get to the point. Latter-day Defense is, I tried to come up with a cute name for it. And I'm sure some of you have asked, what's the name about? That's the question I've gotten from the first few people that I kind of knew about this. So that's obviously a question. Does it have a particular meaning? Yeah, there's an acronym to it. It kind of worked. Took a lot of work. Acronyms are not easy all the time, and a lot of them are sort of taken. You come up with a cool one, and then you Google it or something, and oh, there's a band named that, or a video game or something, and that's not going to work. So that was a little bit of a task figuring that part out. So I'll let you know what it stands for, and maybe all of these questions will actually get somewhere. We'll see how it goes. So I guess for starters, the why of this. I've been thinking a lot about Joseph Smith, and obviously we had the proclamation on the Restoration at conference, and I've thought about that a lot. I'll probably do a whole episode, I guess you'd say, on that particular thing because it really was impactful to me. But one of the things Joseph Smith is famous for that we talk about in our particular era here is the whole thing about the Constitution hanging by a thread and who's going to save it. It'll be the members of the church. And I know a lot of people in the past have kind of questioned if that was real or not. The White Horse Prophecy kind of has that in it, and so people kind of just toss it away as a nothing because that's been dispelled somewhat. But there's actually a lot of instances where members of the church, the early part of the church, actually quoted Joseph on that. So I think there's actually some real meat to it. So I thought I'd throw out a couple of quotes that deal directly with that. Start with Brigham Young. Will the Constitution be destroyed? No, it will be held inviolate by this people. And as Joseph Smith said, the time will come when the destiny of the nation will hang upon a single thread. At that crucial juncture, this people will step forth and save it from the threatened destruction. It will be so. So Brigham Young obviously knew him personally, and they were tight. So seems like there's some credence to that. Also, Eliza R. Snow. She said, "The time will come when the government of these United States will be so nearly overthrown through its corruption that the Constitution will hang, as it were, by a single hair, and the Latter-day Saints, the elders of Israel, will step forward to its rescue and save it." So that's Eliza Snow actually quoting Joseph Smith. And then, of course, the man himself, we can quote. This is actually from the Joseph Smith paper, so that's a pretty good resource in my book. "Even this nation will be on the verge of crumbling to pieces and tumbling to the ground, and when the Constitution is on the brink of ruin, this people will be the staff upon which the nation shall lean, and they shall bear the Constitution away from the very verge of destruction." So, a little bit different wording than the hanging by a thread or by a string or whatever you want to say, but you get the point. He's still saying that it's got to be held up by someone. And I guess one of the things that I've asked in these last few months is, what do I do with that? Because there's a lot of things happening in the world that make you think, yeah, the Constitution, the United States, the government is on pretty thin ice. And what's my part as an average Joe? I'm not running for Congress. I'm not a highly influential business person. I'm just a regular guy who goes to work, has a calling that he feels like a lot of times he's not real great at, and I'm just trying to figure it out like everyone else. So I kind of wanted Latter-day Defense to be sort of almost like a support group. It's not me. One thing I will never do is tell you how to think or how to vote or how to handle anything in the gospel. I'm not here to judge anyone. I just want to be another source of help and perspective, and maybe that's worth something. Maybe it's not. I guess that's up to you. We'll see how good I do with these. But that's sort of a lot of where it's coming from, is this urge of like wanting to make a difference. And I've always felt, ever since I was a little kid, I was going to be alive in the last days and around when everything sort of hit the ground. And now it's staring us in the face, and I want to hear from people and figure out together how we can make a difference. So that's a lot of this. The other part is kind of the whole notion of being a voice of warning. And that's a pretty heavy thing. I don't always know how to handle that. I feel a certain sense of responsibility, but you don't want to get in people's face, because one thing that really turns people off is when they hear, you know, the religious fanatic cramming their stuff down their throat. And I've never been that guy, but I think we can be certainly a positive influence to people. We don't have to be preachy, but we can certainly give people things to think about and chew on and let them work through, and then agency does its part. That's why we're all here, is to utilize that agency. So anyway, some thoughts on being a voice of warning. I got this out of the Doctrine and Covenants. In section 1, verses 1 through 5, I think it tells us right off the bat. Here's this first section in kind of the modern era of the church. And I think it gives us a lot of depth into what we're supposed to do. Hearken, O ye people of my church, saith the voice of him who dwells on high, and whose eyes are upon all men. Yea, verily I say, hearken ye people from afar, and ye that are upon the islands of the sea, listen together. For verily the voice of the Lord is unto all men, and there is none to escape. There is no eye that shall not see, neither ear that shall not hear, neither heart that shall not be penetrated. And the rebellious shall be pierced with much sorrow, for their iniquities shall be spoken upon the housetops, and their secret acts shall be revealed. That's pretty heavy for right now, I think. And the voice of warning shall be unto all people by the mouths of my disciples whom I have chosen in these last days. And they shall go forth, and none shall stay them, for I, the Lord, have commanded them. So I think as members of the church and having the truth, that really sticks out. By the mouths of my disciples who I have chosen in these last days. Why were you born where you were and into the situation that you're in if you were born into the church? If you're a convert, why did God grace you with a path that involved being converted? Something to think about. And they shall go forth, and none shall stay them, for I, the Lord, have commanded them. So we're commanded to be a voice of warning, and I take that pretty seriously. So let's get to the meat of it, and we'll kind of round this thing out. Latter-day defense, what is it? Well, I took defense as the base for things that I would defend, things that I would fight for, things that I would die for, which is, pretty daunting when we say we're willing to die for something. So it's got to be pretty serious. So I tried to take things that I felt really personally strong about and kind of what I want both this YouTube page or video page as it goes. Maybe it'll get taken off YouTube and I'll have to find an alternate way of putting this out. But also the Facebook group, which I would encourage all of you to join so we can kind of support each other and be that support group that I talked about. So Latter-day Defense, what is it? Well, D, I believe and would die for the divinity of God in Jesus Christ. That is my testimony. That is my conviction. And that is what I am trying to build my life around, is doing things that are pleasing to them. The first E, there's 3 E's, so coming up with the E's was a little tricky. So hopefully this isn't too much of a word salad with an acronym. But E, I believe that we're endowed by God with unalienable rights by our Creator. Among those, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And maybe that sounds familiar, but that's because that's from the Constitution, which is from God directly. And if you're not sure about that, read Doctrine and Covenants, section 101. What does F stand for? Well, something that's really been under attack in the last few years, and that is the family. I believe it's the central key thing to the eternal plan of happiness that our Heavenly Father has for us. That's something I'm willing to fight for and to defend. The second E is the essential role of the United States in the restoration of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I think the U.S. Is obviously the only place at the time that the gospel could be restored. The ties of the Book of Mormon to the United States, I think, are undeniable, and Joseph Smith being here all happened for a reason. The timing of it, the ability of it to happen, I think all stems from the ties to this country and the Book of Mormon. And I'll probably talk in another episode about that in particular. So I'll probably do an episode on each of these things individually, I guess. And among many other things, you're welcome to chime in and let me know things you'd like to hear about. Anyway, so DEFE, we've gotten through that. The N, what does the N stand for? The nobility of the founding fathers and the prophets of this dispensation, the Restoration era, if you will. I think a lot of times those things have been under fire. Obviously, we've seen a lot of degrading of the founding fathers, tearing down monuments, and disparaging things that Latter-day Prophets have said. They're still prophets. I sustain them and believe in them, and we'll get into more of that as time continues. So the last couple things that I believe strongly in and that I would defend, the sisters of the church. I think a lot gets made of the priesthood, but the priesthood is nothing without the sisters. And I think if you have questions about that, you can certainly refer to President Nelson's talk in the women's conference from a couple conferences ago. I think he indicated how important the sisters are, and I plan on talking a lot about that because I think that we're all in this together. And then finally, the Elders of Israel. That's Ye Elders of Israel is one of my favorite hymns. I loved singing that on my mission, and still do to this day. And I believe in the priesthood. I'm currently serving as an Elders Quorum president. I don't know that I'm doing the greatest job. Maybe I should be making phone calls instead of making videos. I don't know, but it's been a tough time. It's been hard to know what to do, but I believe in the priesthood and what it stands for. So, in summary, Latter-day Defense, that's what it's all about. I believe in this country, I believe in this church, and I believe that together, as we support each other and get through holding the Constitution together, that's our job, and preparing for the second coming of the Savior. I think those are going to be two of the key things that we talk about as we continue with these videos. So I appreciate you watching. Spread the word if you enjoyed it. Let me know. Give me feedback of things you'd like to see or improvements I'd like to make, or, of course, on the ties. So appreciate the time. Take care of yourselves, and we'll talk again soon.